welcome to the D3D4 Football Podcast with me, your host, James Richards. Happy New Year to everyone. Belatedly, it must be said. I'm wishing you Happy New Year, and as we record this, it is Sunday the 9th of January. I do apologise for the delay in the podcast coming back. Most people's festive seasons would have been filled with joy. Mine was filled with vomit. So, yes, luckily not mine, but my son, and it was not a particularly fun festive period for the family. So, thank you everyone for your patience, and Dave and Ed are back with me for the new year. Happy New Year, guys. How are you both?
Yeah, doing okay. Despite yesterday's result, I'm still trying to look at things outside of footballing well positively. So yeah, can't really complain.
And you, Ed?
Yeah, I'm quite chirpy. Mindset is to attack this new year with a very positive mindset. Whether the football allows me to do that in the long term, we'll find out. But I'm hopefully going to be a bit more positive this year than I was previously.
Ah, well, okay. Well, you're doing well in the XG table. I was having a look at them yesterday. So that's something there, maybe, to be positive about. Thank you to all our patrons as well. New patron joining, Daniel Jolly. Really appreciate your support, Daniel, and hope you are going to enjoy the podcast today and going forward. Also, we partner with the Big Step, who are doing excellent work at highlighting the amount of advertising gambling firms pump into football. Not good, not something we support at all, and we are actively supporting the Big Step's work. They're great insight into the damaging effects that gambling can have on people. So definitely give them a follow at _Big Step on Twitter. Right, let's jump in. And basically, we're going to just have a little chat about everything, really. Thoughts on it all. And we're looking at all the comments you guys sent us on Twitter to start us off. And we'll start with those relevant to League One.
League One.
And guys, yesterday, in a very uneventful game at Adams Park, Wycombe and Sunderland drew 3-3. And we've had Paul Lincoln give us a question on Twitter saying, Ross Stewart, unbelievable player, Sunderland's style of play too. Dan Neil, the real deal Dan Neil. Embleton, Pritchard, movement and passing. It's great to watch at the moment. Totally believe this could be our season. I think Sunderland do deserve some comment because, last time we recorded this podcast, it was a while ago, but they're up into second place. Yesterday it could have been all 3 points so easily, but to be fair, and I know the galling way that they conceded, and it was a set piece, and it's always disappointing. But actually, guys, they turned up yesterday with a bench full of players they had to recall, a young goalkeeper they had to recall as well. It was always going to be a difficult match. 1,800 Sunderland fans made the early trip down there for the 12:30 kickoff, and it finished 3-3. I think, and Ed, you might have an opinion, but I think they would have taken that before the start of the game, considering all the challenges they faced. And in the end, not a bad result for Sunderland.
Does it not feel a little bit like 2 points dropped? I completely get what you're saying, but I think in any situation when you ship a 98th-minute equaliser after taking the lead a few minutes beforehand, you got to hurt a bit, haven't you? I know in the grand scheme of things you probably look back on it and think it's a positive result, but I imagine the emotions at the full-time whistle were one of a bit of disappointment from the Sunderland perspective.
I'm sure it would be. I'm sure it is. And we'll talk about the game in a minute, but remember when Sunderland scored, because of the injury to Evans, and let's send our best wishes to him, hope he recovers fully. Sunderland did score, and it wasn't really in stoppage time. It was like 10 minutes still to go, so there was always a chance Wycombe were going to get back in it. But yeah, the goalie comes up, it's poor marking, free header, goalkeeper just does what he can to keep it out, and there's just Joe Jacobson, who had an absolutely superb game in all respects. Wonderful goal line clearance. Not sure I can remember many better goal line clearances in my time watching football than that. And what is he, 34, 35? If I was that agile, I would never be that agile. Not even in my pomp would I have been that agile. That's pretty crazy stuff. But Ross Stewart deserves a mention as well. Was it 17 league goals he scored this season, or 17 goals in all competition? I'm not sure off the top of my head which is accurate. But yesterday he showed what a good player he can be. He is decent in the air. He holds the ball up and links play really well. And actually, when you saw his second goal of the game, the one that put Sunderland ahead, I didn't actually realise he's that pacey, but he's no slouch, is he?
It's that kind of quick darting movement, isn't it, to get in front of the defenders and onto the end of the cross. It's a really, really nice move.
Yeah, it's lovely.
The ball
goal.
in and the death finish as well, just tuck it in the corner. Very good.
You can just see the Sunderland fans watching as the ball, almost in slow motion, sort of rolls towards the gaping net, and in it goes. But yeah, I think I get what you're saying. 2 points dropped just because of the circumstances of it, but in the end, this point might be quite important. And the fact that they didn't try and call the game off because of...
No, I really like that. That's really good.
Yeah, that's hugely commendable. And I think that will, in the end, be in their favour, because you're going to look at all these teams that have lost matches and have catch-ups to sort of play. It's going to be difficult at the business end of the season to do that. I think that could lead teams to getting either on a bad run or fatigued, and just it's not ideal. And I people say, we've got games in hand. I'd rather have points on the board myself than games in hand. And I think that's just generally the feeling in football. But yeah, Ross Stewart's done brilliantly. Pritchard has got some class to him as well. Have to give him credit. He's played at a high level. You can see that now. Dan Neil, apparently Burnley offering big money for him, and Sunderland saying no as it stands. I sort of heard that yesterday. So interesting to watch that. But if I was Sunderland, I'd keep hold of him. He really is the fulcrum in that midfield. Do not get rid of him. Wycombe, though, they're just Wycombe. Every time you score against them, doesn't matter if you score with 10 seconds to go. It's not a done deal. You can't count until that final whistle goes. You can't count anything against Wycombe, and that's to the credit of their manager and their players. They really do never give up. And yesterday they proved it once again. I wonder how many late goals Wycombe have scored in matches since Gareth Ainsworth. Well, even just in the last couple of seasons. I mean, obviously Ainsworth's been there for years now, but it's really a statement of their character that they can do that to teams. I know the goalkeeper got a bit of stick, the Sunderland keeper. I actually thought he was probably fouled for the first goal they conceded. I don't know what you guys thought of that, but there was clearly, if you back into a keeper, some of the fouls you see given against keepers these days, you don't even have to touch them sometimes, and it's a foul.
No, you just have to sort of be in their vicinity, don't you? Just be close enough, and they'll give it. Yeah.
That in modern football terms, that was definitely a foul on the goalkeeper. He's clearly backing in, forcing his body into the goalkeeper. So a bit unlucky there.
Do you mean the first goal, the second goal? Sorry, because the first one was Mehmeti from quite a distance out.
I mean the second. So the second.
The
Vokes one.
The Vokes goal. Yeah. I mean, it did. I mean, I think it comes down to as well. I'd worry about the defending in that particular instance.
I mean, to be honest, the Vokes one's probably my favourite of the six because of the blatant shirt pulling that Sunderland players are doing to a lot of the Wycombe. You can see it with Vokes especially. He's just being held back and he still gets up to get the header.
It's rather weak defending, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure how the keeper doesn't come for that as well, because you'd expect
that's
the
what I
keeper
mean. He's
to...
blocked off completely. Yeah. Difficult. But anyway, 3-3 result. Sunderland's form has been impressive. I was having a look. That is what, something like 10, isn't it? 10 games in the league undefeated. Not bad. Considering they had that really poor run, that poor result at Sheffield Wednesday, and then since then they've been absolutely imperious. And they've played some difficult teams. They thrashed Sheffield Wednesday 5-0 to sort of avenge that loss at Hillsborough. They got Lincoln and Accrington next, and I wouldn't say seeing Lincoln yesterday. Don't take them lightly. They've done what I thought they'd do, and they've got Portsmouth, Bolton. So they've got some difficult fixtures coming up. Sunderland in the next 4 games. Interesting to see if they can keep this unbeaten run and the momentum going. But yeah, I like what I've seen from them, and I think signing Try Hume in the January transfer window is a good move. It's a sensible signing. No more of these 4 million Will Griggs, but let's go and get young, upcoming players from the League of Ireland. It's basically what Oxford have been doing for the last couple of years, and it's been working well for us. So definitely good things I see for them. Right, next question about League One. Let's have a quick look down this one. There's one I'm getting out of the way early here because it was definitely about Oxford, Lincoln, and yeah, I don't. Ryan Whelan said, "I'm sure you'll enjoy talking about Lincoln's first win in ages." Yeah, okay, Ryan. Well, I'll humour you here. I've been talking about Lincoln turning around their form for ages, and Ed has been goading me about this because he thinks it's only because I fancy Michael Appleton.
You do fancy Michael Appleton?
Well, no, that's just partly true. Okay, it's not.
Must be rather conflicted here with your fantasising about Appleton versus the defeat to your
seriously,
own
guys, if he proposed to me, I would not consider it for more than a couple of minutes.
Come on, Des, you can be honest with us. It's fine. We won't judge.
So more than a couple of minutes before you say yes?
I'm not going to answer that question. It's it's too difficult. You can't put me in this sort of position. It's Michael Appleton, honestly. The guy is just a brilliant tactician, and he's harder than a granite worktop in a Hell's Angels bar. He's just he's personified football man through and through. Very good tactics yesterday. He obviously watched Oxford. To be fair, like Oxford, I think if you play a certain way against us, you nullify us. Cheltenham did it brilliantly in the last game, and he obviously watched our thrashing of AFC Wimbledon where we were brilliant, but they played into our hands, and Lincoln stifled our midfield three. They got in behind our fullbacks time and time again. They should have been well and truly ahead. Apart from Matt Taylor's early chance, Oxford really didn't create very much. And they've signed some. Well, they got rid of. I thought it was quite funny. They got rid of Dan and Lundlu, much to the joy, I think, of some of the Lincoln fans, and he goes and joins Cheltenham. So we're interested to see how he does there. But yes, I was very impressed with Lincoln yesterday. I knew at some point when you've got Appleton in charge, if you keep faith, he'll turn it round because he's a good coach, and they've got. Let's be honest, that's no slouch in those Lincoln teams. They've got some very, very good players. They've had some.
Quite excited about Whittaker's signing.
Yeah, I wish they'd done that later in the window. Personally, what was the game where he scored like a hat trick in no time at all for Swansea? It was an EFL Trophy game or something. Pretty sure it was. He is a very talented player. Took his goal well. I thought Scully took his goal really well. But Lincoln just played perfectly. They played the game perfectly. Passing, movement, pressing hard, getting time and time again in behind us. And yeah, they may not have had more possession than Oxford, but don't for a second take any notice of that rubbish. Possession is only good if you do stuff with it, and Oxford really didn't do very much with theirs. Lewis Montsma got injured, which is not great because they don't have that much cover in central defence, so let's hope that's not a long one. Oxford, on the other hand, have now got Herbie Kane out for 3 matches, and goodness knows how long Cameron Brannigan's going to be out with that injury. It looked like a hamstring. Not great for the Yellows. And I think for Oxford, I was saying to you guys before we started the pod, we have a plan A. We don't have a plan B. We don't have this, once a team sort of stifles our midfield and stops us playing the way we like, we don't really have another option. We don't have a big man to play to early. It will be interesting to see who Oxford sign in January just to beef us up in certain areas. So I know we're looking at centre-backs because, again, like Lincoln, we don't have much cover there. But I'd like a different kind of striker as well, I think, because we haven't seen Dan Ajayi do very much. But Ed, come on, let's get your thoughts on Lincoln, because they played well against us yesterday. They've got a good squad. Do you see January being an important window for them? Because it's going to be more important for some teams than others. But I trust Michael Appleton to get things right this month more than I would other managers.
It has to be an important window with the position they're in. Certainly, it's a very good win over Oxford, but it on its own isn't enough. Lincoln have been probably my biggest disappointment in League One next season. Perhaps we overestimated them a bit in terms of how they'd recover from losing such significant loan players last season and the repeating what was such a successful campaign last term. But to be down where they are is immensely below what we thought they were capable of. And I hope they can turn it around, and I do think they will.
Yeah, I think they will. I think they will. Well, my thoughts on Appleton's side and Lincoln in particular. I think they'll do fine. And yeah, they're being run by people who are very, very good people, very good football people. The investment from the US seems to be from some people who are sensible, not going to just throw money at it, but they've got a plan. And yeah, it's just great to see. Great to see. Ed, just quickly, Cheltenham and Burton drew 1-1. Callum Wright was excellent against Oxford. He looked again like he had a good game against Burton, but scored a nice goal as well. What do you make of him and Cheltenham in general?
I love Callum Wright. I think he's one of my favourite midfielders. He's turned up in both games against Burton, which both ended up 1-1, ironically, and he got the goal to Cheltenham on both occasions. I was with my dad for the game, and he said there's a bit of a Grealish look to him because of the long hair, but the way he plays, I kind of see what he's saying with it as well. He seems to be very good at picking out these volleys from the edge of the box. If the ball drops to him through a clearance or a headed clearance away, he's very good at sending it back in. I remember getting one against, I think it was Tranmere last season, from the throw, if I remember right, that he hit straight back towards the goal. And he's a great part of this Cheltenham team. Apparently they haven't won since November, if I'm right. And I've got to say, watching them yesterday, I didn't believe that for a second. I thought they were excellent. And Burton managed to recover from a pretty poor first half to get a point in the end. So they were very fortunate, I think.
Yeah, they'll be fine. I have no worries about Cheltenham whatsoever.
Not at all.
They were excellent against Oxford. We were lucky to get a point. They're well coached. Michael Duff obviously did his homework on Oxford.
A lot of talk about Chris Hussey. I don't know if you've seen. Apparently could be on the move to Port Vale, which is...
That would be crazy. I think Cheltenham
interesting, certainly.
If I was Cheltenham, I'd keep him.
I would as well.
Yeah.
I think he's excellent, Hussey.
Yeah, he played well.
But then again, Port Vale having Chris Hussey would be brilliant.
Yeah, what they do? They've got Malvinda Benning and Gibbo who can play on that left side. I'd be interested to see what that happened. I mean,
I guess you could maybe put Benning a bit to the thoughts. We'll have to see. But I think it'd be a brilliant signing for Port Vale and a big loss to Cheltenham.
Yeah, I wouldn't. If I was Michael Duff, I'd just say no. You're not going anywhere. Because Freestone is not as good as Hussey. I don't know who you'd play.
I don't think he's really a wing back, really. I like him more in the back three.
Yeah, I don't know who you'd play. Who would you play left wing back then? You'd probably have to sign someone, maybe. Interesting. Interesting. We've had a question as well from Salopcast about who are the 4 teams going down from League One.
I'm incredibly confident with 3 of them. The 4th one I can't decide.
I actually did some research on this, looking at numbers, looking at data, because that always helps back up what the eyes are seeing. And boringly enough, it's the 4 that are there now for me. And I know I'd have more faith perhaps in Morecambe than some of the others based on what I've seen so far. But the truth is, in the expected goals league table, which is something that's worth looking at, they are in that bottom 4. The big problem with Morecambe at the moment as well is that they can't defend set pieces, and in League 1 and 2 that's a big shortfall. Yes, they've had injuries to their defence, so that has to be taken into account. But when you look at the number of goals that they've conceded from set pieces, I think, or at least their XG against from set pieces is shocking. But they've conceded 14 goals from set pieces, Morecambe. Doncaster 16. Crewe only 8, despite the fact that Crewe's XG from set pieces, XG against from set pieces, is the worst in the division. Gillingham are in the bottom 6 for this particular stat as well. Their XG against in just general from open play, Crewe's is the worst, Gillingham's 2nd worst, Doncaster 4th worst, Accrington sandwiched in that bottom 4 as well. Morecambe's is slightly better from open play. It's more mid-table. So that's something to take into account. But just in the XG table, the bottom 4 are Crewe, Doncaster, Gillingham and Morecambe. And the one thing that I look at in terms of what other team do I think would fall into it, I don't know. I mean, what's your take on this, David? Your side are well entrenched now in this relegation battle. In fact, very worryingly so.
Yes.
The reason I'm a bit more confident about Fleetwood is they score lots of goals from set pieces, and although that's not something that you can pin your hopes on, they've scored 14 goals from set pieces this season. Only Rotherham can match that, and no one has betted it. And that's not a bad stat to have for a team who are fighting relegation. I mean, which 4 do you think will go down? And also, you may as well get your Gillingham rant out the way as we...
I mean, look, I'd probably agree with what you said. Like, I don't know where another team falls. Like, Morecambe could get out, but I think they're probably the only one out of the 4 down there that could. I mean, Gillingham and Crewe are 7 points adrift. I don't know where they make up those points, especially when, I mean, out of the 2, Crewe have more of a chance. We haven't won in like 10 games.
I don't think Crewe have more of a chance.
I don't think they do, no, personally.
Oh, well, you're more positive than I am, but I don't know. I just find it really hard that those teams in the bottom four, I know it's only like halfway through the season, but I feel like it would be a mountain to even get out from the 7-point deficit that any of those teams, like especially Gillingham, Crewe and Doncaster, I think, that 7 and 9 point deficit, I think that might be the nail in the coffin anyway.
Well, Doncaster are terrible. Let's be honest. Doncaster were 3-0 up against Morecambe and collapsed. One goal.
That's what gives me a bit of faith in Morecambe, is there's clearly fight in that team.
$500,000 bid expected from Bolton for Cole Stockton. All that's been muted.
They've just got Dion Charles, haven't they?
They have, but Owen Doyle's gone, and Bolton.
I suppose, yeah.
Bolton and January transfer windows have recently been quite good.
I've heard they're pursuing Aaron Morley as well from Rochdale, which would be quite good.
Yeah. Thing is, though, if Stockton goes from Morecambe, then I feel like that is guaranteeing them relegation.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think unless you can find, you're not going to replace that. He has.
There's no way you can replace his goal output because there's nothing else really throughout the squad. He's the main. He's really kind of their only.
It's not just the goals; it's his ability to act as a focal point in that team.
Well, exactly, and you're not going to get that in a January transfer window, are you?
He's got great character as well. He's more than just what he does on the pitch as well. He's kind of got this character that is Morecambe personified right now. So yeah, I think the easiest thing to do here is not look at which four are the worst, because in the league table it doesn't lie. Those current 4 teams in there are the worst. Which team do you think would drop in there? And I have confidence that Fleetwood probably won't. They're in decent form. They've just invested in Ellis Harrison, which I've not been.
Well, then you've got a problem because everyone else I look at really, I fancy to be on an upward trajectory. Like Wimbledon are in an awkward situation, but just because they haven't played for ages.
Well, their last performance was against Oxford, where we absolutely hammered them, but before that they'd gone 4 without defeat.
They're an okay side, Wimbledon.
Yeah.
I agree with you saying. It feels like you've got that 4 and then Fleetwood, and then it feels like the rest are kind of going to break away from it.
Well, Lincoln will be fine. Bolton will have a good transfer window, I reckon, and they'll be fine. Cambridge have got Mark Bonner.
Shrewsbury doing very well. Charlton going upwards. Cheltenham's fine. Burton's fine. It's.
I just don't see. I think I'd have to agree. I just don't see how anyone else gets to that point unless they have a catastrophic decline this season. I just can't see where anyone else would end up falling into that bottom 4.
No, I completely agree. I mean,
David, this is why we give Oxford the dark horse tag so it can happen.
I think they're a little too high up the table at this point, but
we'll be fine. We're
point deduction maybe.
We've already got 43 points, so let's hope that that steers us away from the bottom.
I'm messing.
Yeah, I think it'd be a real. I mean, Gillingham yesterday, mate. Oh, yes. Everyone's going on about Kieran McKenna has won his first 2 games. I mean, this is Ipswich, and they've got a squad loaded with talent. So let's not play. Oh, look at how wonderful he's doing. They should have been doing better anyway. Ipswich should have been doing better anyway. And James Norwood coming out of training with the kids just shows what a bad decision it was to put him there in the first place. I mean, he's a goal scorer, and he's done it pretty much everywhere he's been, especially in the recent seasons that I can remember. He's come in, he's scoring goals. They're playing nice football, but Gillingham were poor yesterday. First 23 minutes, you're 3-0 down.
Has to go down for me as the worst 45 minutes of football that I've ever witnessed in my life.
Well, from a Gillingham perspective, I think Ipswich fans would probably say.
For sure, as a fan, yeah, of course, as a fan of the home team. But yeah, as you say, to go 3-0 down,
Can I just ask, when you say worst 45 minutes, do you mean the first half or the second half?
I'm in the first. I at least think the second half we did something with it. First half was just so open defensively. We were just not following our duties. Our left back and right back, so Tatonda and Jackson were playing too attacking, which left us exposed there. Wes Burns was just exposing that every single time. He had Tatonda on a plate the entire game. Yeah, I mean, honestly, you could tell they're an incredibly well-drilled team, and something has clicked. They just dominated the midfield. They passed the ball so fluidly. Like, you just have to look at, I think it was their second goal or their third. No, so the third goal, because the second was Wes Burns' drilled
The
shot.
third goal was just a great through ball, knocked back and finish, wasn't it? It's nothing anyone.
The thing is the other thing that I noticed is that I sit just behind, like, my season ticket is just by the away dugout, and then you just hear McKenna whistles, and the ball's on the other side of the pitch. He whistles, the ball immediately transitions to the near side of the pitch. That through ball goes in, ball goes across and tap in. Like
a team of dogs.
It was so fluid, like
the Ipswich Colliers.
Ipswich Colliers. I like it.
There was just nothing. There was nothing that could be done. But I think that also comes down to the discipline of the team. Like, for the first half, it was absolutely woeful. Second half, yeah, sure, we didn't score, and that's frustrating. And it never really looked like we were going to get anything out of this game at all. Referee didn't help with this one, to be honest with you. Some particularly poor decisions. I don't actually know who they had in goal yesterday, but the Ipswich keeper handballed it like 5 meters.
Probably.
I don't know, but he literally catches the ball like 5 meters outside of the 18-yard box, drops it immediately. Ref gives absolutely nothing for it. Baffled at that decision. Daniel Phillips, obviously, he gets a second yellow sent off, first one for dissent because he thought that he got fouled, and this ref
that's unforgivable. That for a team struggling to get going.
I agree, but this ref was on such an ego trip yesterday. Like, any slight, even a hint of questioning any decision he made, it was yellows galore. So, it was not the best refereeing, and I've watched a couple of media things from Ipswich fans as well, and I think we're all kind of in agreement that the refereeing was terrible, but take nothing away from Ipswich, because to be quite honest with you, they were a class above us yesterday, and they prove exactly why we are where we are and why they should be challenging for those higher positions this season.
Right, I'm going to stop your rant there, because I do want to get to other people's questions, and I know that this could end up being the Gillingham.
I was finished anyway, don't you worry.
the Gillingham podcast. Right. So I think that's pretty much all we had for League One. There was a question from Lee Clifton about FA Cup replays being scrapped this season, and can we see them being permanently scrapped? That's on the cards already, Lee. I'm sorry to say that FA Cup replays are probably gone for good. Sadly, in my opinion. But it's been something that the big clubs have wanted for ages, and they get what they want eventually. We know that. So I don't know if you guys want to add anything to that, but it does look like the writing's on the wall, and it's been like that for a while.
I'd still quite like to see us potentially try what they do in Germany with the early rounds of the DFB Pokal, when the lower rank side gets home advantage, plays home, gets the home receipts, gets the home crowds in these cup ties. It's probably more easy to do in the German system, because the English system has been so different for so long. But
do you think, though,
I've always wondered if that could be something that could be done.
If Cambridge get half the gate receipts from St James's Park, it's more beneficial to them than, say, a home game against Newcastle, because just
yeah.
And by the way, Cambridge, well done. That was brilliant. You know, everyone thinking Kieran Trippier, he's there because it's the challenge, lads, not the money. Okay, it's nothing to do with the money. It's all to do with the challenge. Yeah, I believe you.
But, I mean, I would agree with what you said, James. I think just based on the last couple of seasons, it's only a matter of time before they get rid of it altogether. In some ways, it brings the magic of the cup just having one straight game, but I think it both gives advantage and not gives advantage for those teams, I suppose, that are higher up in the pyramid and have that kind of depth to be able to bring on better quality players as opposed to just that starting 11. It will probably benefit them massively. But having said that, extra time and penalties is a bit more of a luck of the draw, isn't it, in comparison to necessarily a second leg. So it depends on which perspective you're looking at this from.
Yeah, I just think that the big clubs don't want it, and eventually that's what we'll see happen. But which is a shame, because FA Cup replays, some of them have been absolutely stunning.
I could think of some brilliant replays I've been at in the past.
Yeah, exactly.
Some brilliant ones.
Anyway, let's jump down into League Two and have a look at the questions and opinions that we were asked in that division.
League Two.
Quite a lot in this one on Tranmere, because obviously a 4-0 win yesterday, Elliot Nevitt scoring a really good goal. But there are a couple of questions on Tranmere. So Will asks how Tranmere are second after 23 games without January improvements, rather than our usual relying on January improvements to have a strong finish. There was a couple of others about. I'm sure there was someone else asked about Tranmere. Yeah, someone called MH said Elliot Nevitt's goal and how Oldham will be extinct this time next year. We'll talk about that as well, of course. Firstly, Tranmere. I mean, they're doing wonderful stuff.
What a joke of a team this is.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
Joke
And
of a
Sean
team.
Stokes as well. Sorry, Ed. Sean Stokes said Elliot Nevitt's rise from literally playing Liverpool Business House's Sunday League last year. Not only is he starting to look more accomplished as a striker, he's also one of their most effective defensive players. Elliot Nevitt's an interesting one. I mean, obviously, part of the reason I think Tranmere have got better as the season's gone on in many respects is because he's grown into the role. I think it takes a player time to get used to the Football League. Fitness-wise is one thing as well, but just, the physicality of it, what to be successful. I mean, there's some of the teams that he's played for, right? Bursklow, City of Liverpool, AFC Liverpool, Bootle, Waterloo Dock, City of Liverpool again, and Warrington Raylands 1906. So he's been around the non-league circuit, this lad. But yeah, Ed, I'll tell you carry on your train of thought, because this is a Tranmere team that it's a bit of a crazy one, isn't it?
It's nuts. Their games have been involved. I've seen 38 goals, 24 scored, 14 conceded. They've got 41 points. They've got more points than they've seen goals in their games. It's the most nuts defensive record, plus ability to grind out wins. They've won 6 in a row in the league now.
5 of those without conceding in a row.
Absolutely nuts. I can't believe what I'm seeing. And like you say, we're still kind of looking at them thinking, have they got that super dependable goal scorer? I really like Nevitt as well, who's really growing into the role. And he feels a bit like what the kind of signing you would expect Accrington Stanley to do. Go and pick someone out of non-league and show to the Football League level. And Tranmere have found, I think, a bit of a gem in finding him as well.
Bit of a shout out for Charlie Jolly as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's
very
actually
good. They've been a pair. I think they've become a pair in the last couple of months or so, and it's looking a really effective partnership at the moment.
Yeah, it is. Charlie Jolly is a guy that basically started the season as very much a backup, someone you'd probably see go out on loan. They obviously lost the chap from Sunderland who was recalled.
Josh Hawkes was recalled. Mark Duthie departed the club as well. But they brought in Josh McPake, who I was a really big fan of back at Harrogate last season, so I'm excited to see what he does.
Didn't really do much at Morecambe, but I certainly think he's a player in League Two who will have a massive impact. Played well by all accounts yesterday. I just think, the play they've obviously had their Scott Davies out with an Achilles issue all season. I saw his he was booted up in a big, protective cast when I saw him at Oldham earlier in the season. So, but
he's announced his retirement.
Has he?
Yeah, he announced it a few days ago, if I recall correctly.
Oh,
which is a terrible shame.
Yeah, it is. It is. That surprised me. I didn't hear that one. So yeah, but Doohan's done really well on loan, I think, from Celtic. Josh Cogley is Josh Dacus Cogley, depending on how
the continuity of that back line: Cogley, McDonald, Davies, Clark. What a back line that is, and Clark's still going strong.
Well, McDonald missed the first part
old.
of the season, didn't he? And McDonald's actually their best left back. He's come back and got fit, and Davies and Clark have formed a good partnership. They do have Knight Percival out at the moment, but he's another good player at this level, depending on which Knights Percival you get. They've got experience, they've got good youth, they've got a nice mix right through that team. They can play multiple formations that I think, like the 4-4-2 they played yesterday, is fine. They've got a utility man in Lee O'Connor who literally can play everywhere. So, this is a team that they will improve in January. They will add something, I'm sure. They're doing well. They're doing really well. It's good to see. But yeah, Elliot Nevitt is like one of these players that you just said Accrington would pick up, wouldn't they, and just develop them. Pretty impressive stuff. Tranmere Rovers 6 wins in a row, 5 straight clean sheets in that run as well. So terrific stuff. Crawley, Ed, we've got a question about Crawley. Crawley, 1-0 winners at Northampton. They've also been away to Leyton Orient and won recently. It's 3 straight wins. What do we think about this? I love the 3-4-3 that they're playing at the moment.
Yeah, it's interesting with Crawley. 3 really good results. I'm still a bit hesitant with them because it kind of feels like they can have a run like this, but then there'll be a winless run round the corner. And I think that's what's really held them back this season so far. 3 really positive results, and it does seem to be working quite well at the minute, this 3-4-3, as you say. I can't be sure exactly what it does in the long term. We'll have to see over the next 2 games, I think.
Yeah, Ivan Noel, it was who asked us the question, saying the Red Devils clocking up 3 consecutive wins, including 2 at Orient and Northampton. I mean, Glenn Morris bailed them out a little bit yesterday with that really good stop. As was it Zimba who came running through, the new signing on loan from Cardiff. Northampton haven't quite looked the same though. In fairness, since coming back from COVID, they were poor in the game. Who would they go to? Was it Newport they went to and got beat? Where they got beat?
They went to Swindon.
That's right. That 5-2 defeat at Swindon. By the way, great to see the county ground absolutely full for that game against City. Ruined, I'm afraid, by some idiots. Yet more racism in football. Just tired of talking about it, but no, great to see for a club that was potentially going bust in the summer. Great to see Swindon fill that ground and have a great night against Man City, and McCurdy scoring against City. Although the keeper probably should have saved it. It was nice to see him at least get a goal. But yeah, back to Crawley. I like the 3-4-3. I think with you've got to have Naderson and Nichols playing in that front 3, and I think Appiah has finally, with his fitness, got into a position where you've got a player who's slightly different from the other 2, and it works well. And they've still had, they've got rid of Dallison. Tom Dallison's gone over to Colchester, and Tarasula's now back. Tilly's been playing sort of as on the right wing. Frankham and Powell, with Hessenthaler out injured and Payne out injured, they've had to sort of put those 2 in midfield, and they did well. Yesterday it was Matthews and Nichols. I apologise, not Appiah. Appiah's done a really good job when he's played in that front 3 of late. It's just good. It's just they've got the problem for Crawley all season has been the injuries. It's been absolutely ridiculous the amount of players they've had injured. I mean, they're only just getting players like Payne and Tarasula back. Matthews as well was out with an awful shoulder injury. Lynch had been suspended because obviously he got sent off for that elbow. He's become an important player, just signed a new contract extension with them as well. So a lot to like about Crawley. If they can get their full strength squad out, I mean, I'd still like to see Tunnicliffe play at some point this season. He must be coming back soon, but he was superb for them last year and the year before. So they don't really need to do much in January apart from maybe sign a really good doctor. And I think they'll be all right. But yeah, Oldham going extinct. Let's touch upon that because it's just sad, isn't it? It's just I don't know. It's terrible.
It's a really hard position to be in, isn't it?
Well, they haven't got a manager. Well, they do. They've got Salim Benachour, but he's interim, like slyly being left to just get on with it. They haven't got a very good squad, especially up front. Like they just, in terms of,
do we see them actually bringing anyone in this transfer window though?
No, not really. Not that will make an impact. They're limited by this monitored loan agreement, which I think is a max wage of £800, isn't it, or something like that?
Sorry, they're under the same one that we're under at the moment.
Yeah,
embargo. Right.
I'm not sure they're under an actual embargo, but I think it limits what you can spend, what wages you can use, the squad limit size. It's not good. I can't really see them improving. They need someone who can score goals because actually they've had, in terms of entrances into the opposition's box, it's not bad. Chances created, not bad. They just don't have. Hallam Hope is not a striker. He's not. He may wear the number 9, but he's not. And it's just everything that's happened at the club in the last few years has just been depressing. And if they do go down as the first Premier League side ever to be relegated out of the Football League, it will be a a sad indictment on what's been taking place off the pitch, frankly.
And the problem is you don't really feel like it's the furthest they're going to fall either.
Oh no. I mean, look at how
you look at
Southend
at the minute and the unfortunate and the difficult situation they're in, and there's every chance Oldham could be the same.
Could be indeed. Oh, it's just, yeah, it is just a depressing situation to see. Obviously, I grew up when they were on the way up into the Premier League, and so seeing them fall as they have, it's not good. It's not great to see. Not a good watch at all. Other stuff that happened in League 2 yesterday. Carlisle beat Bradford 2-0, and we've got a question, and this is one which I'll get you to give me your take on, Ed. Should Derek Adams get the sack? Bear in mind, 1 win in 12.
The big problem with Bradford for me isn't the manager, it's Rupp. I think he's owner of the club. I can't remember his exact position, but there's been. You remember there was a point a couple of months ago, or maybe even less than that, where there was the talk about this crypto owners coming into Bradford.
Oh yes, that made me vomit.
Talk about this, and I remember quite a lot of Bradford fans who were willing to do it, willing to take the risk with it, just because they wanted to see something happen with the club.
Oh no!
There was a felt that things had gone incredibly stagnant under Rupp, and that Bradford just weren't going to go anywhere. And the potential of that club we know is enormous. With the gates they have, the stadium, the history they have, everything's there. The right owner comes in and Bradford could skyrocket up the leagues. And it's always felt like things have really stagnated under him. They're not getting to where they are. I don't think Derek Adams is the problem. We know what he can do at this division. Yes, there's probably more expectation of this club than there was previously, certainly with Morecambe, because of what he did with Morecambe partly.
Yeah.
But if you get rid of Adams, where'd you go? That's the thing for me.
I wouldn't get rid of him.
Where'd you go from there?
Because I don't think necessarily, and this is not to say that things are great, but I don't think necessarily things are as bad. I think Cook went off injured yesterday again. That's a big loss. Like, they need him. But funny enough, when you look at an XG table, and I know it's only a sample, but they're actually the XG table, which if you want to have a look at these, Experimental 361's website has these. This one was produced on the 4th of January, the one I'm looking at. They're second in the XG table. Forest Green are the only team better than them. So it's suggesting that the data of the performances they're putting in.
The only thing with that,
not
James, and I'm sure there'll be people who feel the same, it suggests, doesn't it? It doesn't guarantee.
Oh, absolutely. But what it suggests is if they can, I mean, the goals they conceded yesterday were like, Gibson's was a great goal, no doubt about it. And Carlisle, 3 straight wins, I think 3 straight clean sheets. But Amari Patrick, I think it was Factory Keller who was turned, and it was bad defending. As much as I liked Amari Patrick's goal, lovely finish, really good run. Held him off, turned his man, but it was too easy. It was too easy, and that would be what Derek Adams, I'm sure, would be thinking. But
they're playing for one for the team as both players were thought by Bradford boys as well.
Yes.
Gibson and Patrick.
Yeah, there's a huge amount, and they're great.
Really bad day.
1,200 travelling support, and they got both players ran over to the Bradford fans to celebrate their goals. But again, I think the fact that those two players had a bad time at Bradford is it's indicative of what the club have been going through. They've definitely been a club struggling in recent seasons and just haven't been able to find any positive momentum. Even with Derek Adams coming in, and it was a good managerial appointment. I don't have any problem with that. I thought it was a good appointment at the time. I still do. I wouldn't sack him. I'm with you, Ed. I wouldn't sack him. I think this season could still go any which way for them, and I think it'll either stay roughly as it is now, or it will get better. I don't think they'll get too much worse.
No, I'd agree with you on that. Yeah.
So and it's worth giving him time, because I think his record at this level, like you said, where would they go? There's no other managers that I can think of off the top of my head who have got as good a record at this level than Derek Adams. So it's a difficult one. I think Keith Millen deserves credit for what he's doing at Carlisle. Getting Amari Patrick back was a good move from the club, because he knows the area. He's a good player. He had a good season there, and if you want players to sign for Carlisle who want to go to Carlisle. That may sound obvious, but they have got that problem. where they don't always get players who want to go up to Cumbria to play. But Murray Patrick has been there, likes it, enjoyed his time with the club. So that's a very positive move. Good signing. One thing I did want to also touch upon, because Colchester are bottom of this XG table. They're a team I'm really worried about. But they have made an interesting signing on loan from AFC Wimbledon. The name of the guy, as I say, Corey Andrews. I was watching some of his stuff that he's been doing for Aldershot this season in the National League. 9 goals in 20 appearances, so he's basically a goal every 2 games. I mean, that's the kind of player that Colchester need. They need someone.
They need a forward very badly, yeah.
They do, and so I think that could be, depending on how he takes to the step up, and that's always a question mark. That could be a very good signing for them. And I think Dallason's a good signing as well, though not necessarily sure centre-back is a position that I was hugely worried about Colchester, because they do have Smith, Eastman, Chambers. They've got some good centre-backs. But Dallason's a good player with a bit of versatility. He has played left-back as well for Crawley. So, but yeah, I think keep with Derek Adams is the point that we're all sort of making here. Newport, no fans allowed, which I think is really unfortunate. Lost to Salford, because I think having fans at Rodney Parade does make a big difference to them. And that's a disappointing result for them yesterday at home to a team who should be doing better and probably will do in the second half of the season. Stevenage won their first game under Tisdale Ed as well. Walsall continue their tradition of playing crap against the teams who are just not doing very well. But Stevenage have signed, I think, already 5 players in this window.
It's been a busy one, yeah. Brought in a couple of goalkeepers. I quite like Christy Pym. I'm a bit ashamed to see him back down in League 2. I'm not sure what's quite happened that's got him down to this level, but he could be quite good to them. Bringing Boswick back into the team to play as just an enforcer midfield, Ed Upson in there as well, and then getting Luke O'Neill in as a right back option. I quite like what they've done so far. Luke
O'Neill had gone to keep fit with Kettering, hadn't he, after leaving AFC Wimbledon? He had a nasty injury, I think, there. He's actually a good player. You look at Boswick, and I always look at Stevenage and think, how many 30-plus-year-olds can we fit in the midfield?
It does seem that, doesn't it? Yeah,
it does a little bit. But Chris Lyne scored a nice goal yesterday, to be fair to him. He's a good player. Great start that they had. Rolly Menea signs a new contract and then scores an own goal to celebrate.
Brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Walsall, though, yeah, they're a team that have done, in the XG table, they're right in the top 6. But that kind of defending yesterday in that performance, that was poor. And I don't think Hayden White is a good centre-back. I can only assume, obviously, Manny Month is 7-game suspension, and I assume Ash Taylor's out either injured or one of the COVID cases that you see, perhaps. But a lot of teams having to make do. A couple of games cancelled with very little time left. So I will just finish on this point. We've seen quite a few matches cancelled recently. I think Bristol Rovers had one due to COVID, which was cancelled on the day of the game. Not a huge amount of notice. We had one cancelled at 2 o'clock yesterday. That was Rochdale away at Colchester. And Oldham's a couple of hours before kick-off as well, when all the Sutton fans would have travelled, all the Rochdale fans would have travelled. It is difficult, guys, isn't it, when you've got a waterlogged pitch, because you can have heavy rain. But I think we do have a thing called a weather forecast, which, if it's at all in doubt, I would be not hugely upset if they started postponing matches a bit earlier, just to save fans all the hassle, all the travel, because it's a huge expense. If you've looked at how much a litre of petrol costs at the moment, and you're going to drive, if you're going on the train, then you have to sell your house to afford a ticket. I mean, it's a very expensive time to be an away fan.
But are you, on the other side to that, are you then risking the chance that you call a game off and the chance that there is rain and the rain ends up not affecting the pitch enough to the point that it would be unplayable?
Well, it's very difficult, isn't it?
It's really hard, isn't it?
There needs to be a system, I think. There needs to be an agreed system where we try and find a way of stopping this, because it's so unfair on the supporters. I mean, the COVID one with Bristol Rovers was outrageous.
I think at the very least we can agree that it needs to be more than... There needs to be a certain time window. So I would personally say probably maybe 3 or 4 hours before you're due to kick off at the very least.
A lot can happen in 3 or 4 hours, though. That's the problem.
For sure, but especially if you're a team... I mean, let's be honest, if you're a team that's been hit with COVID, there should be no way that it's getting into that time window regardless.
Yeah, but the COVID protocol is pathetic. I still don't understand what it is. I don't think anyone does.
Well,
it seems to be one different rule to some and different rule to others.
Yeah, exactly. I did like the tweet from Notts County that said, "We've been in touch with Dover and there's no danger of the game being called off. Safe journey, Magpie fans." And then the game has been called off. Oh dear.
Did you hear about when Notts County went up to Kings Lynn?
No, what happened?
And Kings Lynn, they were playing at Kings Lynn Town, and apparently the game was called a waterlogged pitch, and apparently they asked about a groundsman at Kings Lynn, and there wasn't one. I don't know if I've said that story before, I might have, but that's what I've heard. That apparently Kings Lynn don't have a groundsman. So
who does the pitch? They just have a herd of sheep that keep it.
I guess so. It's Kings Lynn, they probably can do it.
I don't know.
They just get the tractors from Ipswich, don't they?
Yeah. Oh dear. I don't know. It's a difficult question, this, but I would like to see a very sort of set rule, and you're going to have. It works both ways. You're either going to have fans making these long journeys and it being called off, or you're going to have some matches postponed when it could have gone ahead. But which is the lesser of two evils? I don't know. I'd probably say.
Well, I know there were some Sutton fans who made that trip up to Oldham before the game got called off, and they were fortunately able to find another game in non-league around the Manchester area. But it's not the purpose of your trip, and I completely get what you're saying. There's no easy way with this, is there? Really?
There isn't. Because you can't control the weather. Predicting it is hard. But I just feel for fans at the moment, because actually it's bloody expensive going anywhere right now for over a long distance. It is just a huge cost, and a lot of people just can't. A lot of people just don't have that money to throw away. Some people also book hotels and stuff to go out and make a weekend of it, and you could argue that game being called off is for them not so tragic because they can do other things, but still, if I travel to watch my team play, my weekend would be ruined if they didn't watch the match, because I'd have no interest of going and seeing like the delights of I don't know, Oldham.
Delightful place, Oldham.
Yeah, it's got some great meals to
if you want, James, you can come and see the delights of Gillingham at the end of the month when we play you at home.
Yeah. You live in Chatham, so I mean, what delights does that have?
You can see Chavs.
Well, yeah. Didn't they coin? Isn't that where that expression comes from?
I do believe that was. Yeah, I do believe we coined that phrase.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Abandoned concrete factories and Chavs.
Yeah, I can show you random parks, some graffiti on a wall, some trains. Oh, all of the sites.
All of the sites. At least Colchester have a castle and a great Roman history.
Well, we've got a castle and a cathedral in Rochester, and one of the tallest keep in the entirety of the UK that's still standing. It's 113 metres high.
That is such an attraction. The tallest keep in the UK.
Hey now. It's something. We haven't got much. Give us this.
You've got that wonderful away end. I mean, that's just, architecturally speaking.
That's a landmark in itself, that one.
Yeah, that's the ninth wonder of the world, isn't it? It's a wonder how it's still standing.
Right. Well, thank you very much, both of you, for your opinions today, and thank you for all of you who sent in your questions. We will end it there for the sanity of our listeners who have remained with us. I can't imagine it's very many of you. But until next week, when hopefully we'll have more things to discuss. It's goodbye from all of us. Take care, everyone.